If I showed you a painting from the 1500s, something commissioned by a king or rendered by a master, you'd call that art without thinking twice. Now, what if I showed you a McDonald's ad? Beautifully shot, perfectly composed, designed to make you feel something, even if that something is just hunger. Is that art? Now stretch that question a little further. What about a Marvel movie? Hundreds of artists, composers, actors, designers, thousands of people pouring real craft into something that exists, at least in part, to sell you the next one. Where exactly does that fall in the category of art? And now I look at what's coming out of Hollywood, and I genuinely don't know if most of it is just trying to be art or just content. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Where do movies actually fit in the world of art anymore? And is there even a clean answer to that question? So what happened to movies?
I'm here in Thailand. Like currently, like 9,000 miles away from my house, Thailand. Here I am. If you walk around Thailand even a little bit, you're bound to see art at every turn. From the shrines to the marketing to, okay, it's mostly marketing. Yeah, it's a lot of marketing. But that did get me to thinking, is marketing art? You know, art used to be commissioned by kings and royalty, and now it's commissioned by Nike and McDonald's. Is it really that different? And that's a rhetorical question. I don't actually know. I'm definitely not an art expert, even though I was voted most likely to be artistic. Wait a minute. But a real question comes to mind when I walk around and I see these statues and paintings and the different brandings. Is this art? Is Ronald McDonald art? Obviously, a lot of people work on these things as creative endeavors, and honestly, some of them I would genuinely call art. It makes you feel something, moves you in some way, gives you a sense of wonder, makes you wonder about Chicken McNugget. So if marketing can count as art, where do movies fit in? Movies are the epitome of artistic expression. After all, they are comprised of all other forms of art. Music, acting, whatever this is.
It's you! It's you!
Yeah.
And they're also one of the most collaborative art forms we've seen. Movies can range from a few dozen to thousands of people involved from conception to release. But as time has gone on, the role of movies has become more muddled. We've talked on the channel before about how streaming shows seem to be filling the artistic void like movies used to, but I wanted to talk more in depth about the movie aspect of this and kind of just gripe about how I feel like the movies as an art form are really headed downhill in a very fast way. Like, what even constitutes a movie now? They don't have to come out in theaters. They don't have to be a certain time limit. And now that streaming shows are able to compete with the big budgets, it's kind of hard to see where movies actually fit in the grand scheme of things. And it's no wonder that Hollywood keeps taking this bait. That's why they're so big on making shows that should be movies. I think there's a couple reasons for this, like producers being able to pocket more up front. But no matter why it's actually happening, it's definitely corroding the space that movies used to occupy. Now movies exist in many different forms, which normally I would say is good. If you want a cheesy romance movie, there's a Hallmark movie for you. If you want an action movie, there's a Marvel for you. Netflix also makes movies, I hear. Oh, and also Amazon Prime, and also Warner Brothers, and also Apple, and also Hulu. And I can hear what you're saying. It's good that there's a lot of competition, right? Well, yeah, normally, if the incentive structure wasn't completely broken. But movies used to make a direct profit from the box office, but now they don't have to. Obviously, these streaming services are trying to grow memberships with each new movie release, but it feels more akin to them trying to get views on like YouTube and not so much like trying to get butts in seats. And just like YouTube, views and quality do not necessarily go hand in hand. I do feel like movies had a bigger push for quality back when they had to convince you to pay for it. Now that you can just click and watch from wherever you are, from your phone or from home, I feel like companies definitely know that, and they know that the customer's expectation is very different. And social media has definitely changed that landscape as well. I'm a big YouTube consumer myself, obviously, but I only partake in the highest intellectual level of content.
Oh my God, that was my grandfather. He was a giant Mexican Shrek donkey.
But YouTube definitely has competition to even some of the biggest movies. And to go even further, we could talk about vertical content. Yes, it is the bane of my existence. content that usually exists just to be consumed and doesn't really have a point outside of that. You remember Vine when that was funny? You remember Free Shabakadoo? Vine actually incentivized the creators to do something unique and funny and stupid. And while at the time I was kind of annoyed by it, now that it's been replaced by TikTok and what can only be called brain rot, I feel like we've really digressed since the Vine era, and Vine is actually pretty good. You look up old Vines that make you slap your grandma, pretty good. They hold up pretty well. Now it's only been replaced by inferior applications that the whole incentive structure is make more of this. Straight up rip off people's ideas. And look, I know I'm on YouTube and I'm just in it for the views as well. That checks out. And I don't have a problem with getting inspiration from other YouTubers and other creators. And as a creator myself, I can't help but feel like I want to create content with some kind of substance.
Oh, God.
You're grabbing my balls!
Even if it's not super deep or even cinematic, I just want to make something that's kind of artistically expressive. Even if it is super easier just to poop out a bunch of ChatGPT shorts. And I'm not going to touch too much on AI in this video, but it's obviously a huge area of concern when it comes to movies and art and just, being a human being that's kind of scared of robots. I mean, at least when humans were crapping out soulless view generators, there's at least humans involved, so you have a chance of getting some soul here or there. Like, at least the idea had to come from a human. Like, yes, Free Shabakadoo is stupid, but that's human. It's very human. Also, I'm a bit of a sci-fi optimist, and I choose to believe that AI can be a good thing for art and for filmmaking, mostly to help creators do the monotonous things that we don't like doing. Like rotoscoping, for instance, used to be the bane of my existence. Now, I just don't do it. But if I wanted to, it would be easier. So, that's good. And of course, in the end, AI will be abused by companies, by creators, maybe by me. I'm not even going to make any promises. AI is pretty easy to use at this point. But we'll just have to hope that enough people will refuse to consume just soulless AI slop. And that might take a while. It might take a while of consuming AI slop to get to the point where people reject it. Especially when it comes to bigger companies that are already doing these AI sloppy campaigns. I feel like most people are rejecting that. So hopefully enough pushback and maybe they'll stop that before it's too late. And to bring it back to movies, they are what got me into content creating in the first place. I love how movies can transport you to any world you want and let you experience things that you can't experience any other way. And yeah, you have shows and social media, even games, but none of those formats give the same avenue that movies do to their creators. They're free to craft whatever world they want, all in one 2.5 hour tight package. And if it's 3 hours, that's too long. It should be a show. I think this is one of the reasons we're getting so many unevenly paced shows now. They're really just movies that have been stretched from 2 hours to 6 or 8. Look at any of the Star Wars shows, most of the Marvel shows. And if you can cut like half of a season out and still have all your major plot points, that's not good writing. Even Severance, which is one of the biggest shows, and a show I actually really enjoy. You cut out half of both seasons and it's the same show. They're just running down the hallway.
2,000 years later.
So I've been sitting with this question for a while, and I came across a video from Thomas Flight that helped me reframe how I look at this. In it, he draws on a book by J.F. Martel called Reclaiming Art in the Age of Artifice, and he lays out this distinction that I think is the key to answering our question. The distinction is between art and artifice. Now, those two words sound similar, and that's kind of the point. They're easy to confuse, but the difference is really important. Art is a creative work that taps into something genuinely mysterious about the human experience. It doesn't deliver a message so much as it opens a door. Think of Van Gogh's Starry Night. There's no thesis statement in that painting. It doesn't tell you what to think, but when you look at it, you feel something that's hard to put into words. There's a loneliness in it, a beauty, maybe even a terror. That ambiguity, that sense of shared human mystery, is what makes art. Artifice, on the other hand, is something made with skill, sometimes extraordinary skill, but its purpose is to deliver, to impart a message, provoke a specific reaction, maybe sell you something. It might look like art, and it might borrow art's visual language, but it's ultimately in service of something concrete and external. Artifice isn't inherently bad, it's just not the same thing. And this is where I think it clicks for me when it comes to movies. I don't think the answer to where do movies fit into art is a single point on the map. I think movies exist on a spectrum, maybe, a spectrum between art and artifice. And where any given film lands on that spectrum depends on what's driving it. If you look at older films, the ones we now consider classics, most of them leaned heavily toward the art side. They were born from a director's vision, a writer's obsession, an actor's need to inhabit a character. Even the big studio pictures of the Golden Age had a very strong identity. They were products, sure. Hollywood has always been a business, but the economic model demanded that you gave audiences something they couldn't get anywhere else. You had to move them. You had to make them feel like that ticket was worth it. Now, if you look at where we are, the modern blockbuster is, more often than not, a product first. It's designed by committee, optimized for global markets, built to launch a franchise, sell merchandise, and feed a streaming algorithm. The craft is still there. There's VFX artists, the composers, the set designers. They're all doing the same incredible work, but the driving force behind the project isn't mystery or human expression. It's strategy. It's how do we turn this movie into a theme park ride? And I think that's artifice. And very important to note, I'm not saying every modern blockbuster is soulless or that every old movie was a masterpiece. That's obviously not true. But the center of gravity has kind of shifted on that. The average big budget movie in 2025, I think, is a lot closer to the artifice end of the spectrum than the art end. You can feel it when you walk out of a theater and you can't remember a single scene that actually surprised you. You can feel it when a movie looks stunning but leaves you with nothing to think about. The good news is that the art side of the spectrum hasn't disappeared. Studios like A24 are proof of that. They're making movies that sit firmly on the art end, and people are responding to them in a big way. The appetite for genuine human expression hasn't gone away, it's just competing with a lot more noise now. So maybe the real answer is this: movies don't fit neatly into art or outside of it. They sit on the spectrum, and the question isn't whether film is art, it's whether we, as audiences, keep demanding that it needs to be, that it should try to be. So that's where I think I've landed on this, at least for now, but I want to hear from you. Think about the last movie you watched that genuinely made you feel something. Not just entertained you, but actually stayed with you after the credits were over. What was it? And what do you think made it land on the art side of the line instead of the artifice side? Drop it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.